Apple's first foldable iPhone is still expected to launch in fall 2026. But new leaks suggest the project is hitting serious turbulence at the exact stage where Apple usually locks everything down: engineering, validation, testing, also known as EVT. This is the phase where a concept becomes a real product where parts, materials, hinge mechanics, and the foldable display are pushed to their limits to prove the design can survive every day. Use dot and right now. Apple's foldable iPhone appears to be running behind schedule. According to the latest reports, IFT was originally on track to wrap by June 2026, but it's now delayed by 1 to 2 months. That may not sound dramatic, but in smartphone manufacturing, a small delay early in the pipeline can create major problems later, especially for a brand new category like a foldable iPhone, where tolerances are tighter and failure points are far more complex than a standard iPhone. If this delay holds, mass production could be pushed into early August 2026, creating a compressed runway leading into a fall launch. And that's where the real concern starts. Supply.why EVT delays matter so much for the foldable iPhone. EVT is where Apple confirms the device can be built consistently, not just once, but at scale. It's the stage where the foldable iPhone's most sensitive components, hinge assembly, flexible display layers, internal cabling, and chassis rigidity, must pass brutal reliability tests. For a foldable IEV is even more unforgiving because the phone is not a static slab. Every fold introduces stress. Every opening and closing cycle tests the hinge. Every pocket carry introduces dust risk. Every drop test has different outcomes depending on whether the phone is folded or unfolded. When EVT slips, everything that follows gets squeezed. Design validation, testing DVT, production validation, testing PVT, ramp planning, tooling, and the final manufacturing curve Apple needs to hit before launch. Even if Apple keeps the fall 2026 release window, the launch quantities could be significantly lower than a typical iPhone release. What's causing the delay? The 3 hardest problems in foldable leaks point to 3 core issues Apple is working through, and they just happen to be the 3 issues that have haunted foldables since day one. First, hinge durability. Apple is reportedly pushing for hinge reliability that can survive massive folding cycle counts without wobble, looseness, creaking, or mechanical degradation. The hinge can't just work. It has to feel premium, stay aligned, and remain stable after months or years of daily use. Second, foldable display longevity. A foldable OLED is not the same as a traditional display. It must bend thousands of times without developing dead pixels, discoloration, visible wear, or crease-related stress damage. Apple is likely testing how the panel behaves under heat, pressure, repeated flexing, and long-term tension, because foldables are far more vulnerable to microfailures that may not show up in early prototypes. Third, structural integrity. A foldable iPhone must stay rigid enough to feel like an Apple product while still allowing the frame to support a flexible design. That means preventing twisting, improving drop survivability, protecting the inner display when closed, and maintaining durability at the hinge cutout points where stress concentrates. Apple's quality standards are helping. Gand is famous for delaying or redesigning products if they don't meet internal standards. In the foldable market, that obsession with quality might be the entire strategy. Competitors have already taken the hits from early generation foldables' hinge failures, display fragility, dust sensitivity, and long-term wear issues. Apple clearly wants to avoid a first-gen foldable scandal moment, but that level of perfection comes at a cost. The more testing, refinement, and rework required during EVT, the more the production calendar tightens. And when production ramps late, launch day inventory suffers. If the foldable iPhone is truly planned for fall 2026 at a premium price, Apple can't afford widespread durability complaints. So Apple may be choosing the safer path: delay internal milestones now, rather than ship a foldable iPhone that feels experimental. Foldable iPhone design leaks. 2 displays. 1 mission. The rumored design points toward a book-style foldable that transforms between phone mode and tablet mode. Apple's take on a device that replaces both a standard iPhone and, for some users, a compact iPad, leaks claim the foldable iPhone will feature a 5.3-inch outer display for quick tasks like messaging, calls, navigation, and one-handed use a 7.8-inch inner display that opens up for multitasking, entertainment, reading, and productivity. If Apple gets the software right, the inner screen could be the real selling point. A foldable iPhone can't just be a bigger display, it has to feel like a different class of device when opened. That means smooth app, scaling, true multitasking, optimized keyboard layouts, and a UI that feels intentionally designed for folding. And none of that matters if the hinge and display can't survive real-world use. Which brings us right back to why EVT is such a bottleneck. Foldable iPhone price leak. Premium, exclusive, and risky. Another major leak centers around pricing, with estimates ranging from $2,000 to $2,500 that positions the foldable iPhone as a luxury tier Apple product, likely aimed at early adopters, power users, and buyers who want the newest form factor regardless of cost. At that price, expectations skyrocket. People won't tolerate visible wear after a few months. Losing display defects, poor durability, Atari compromises. Premium price can help Apple in one way, though Apple may not need to ship massive volumes at first. Limited supply at launch might still sell out quickly, especially if demand is strong and the product is marketed as the future of iPhone. But from a consumer perspective, high price plus first-generation uncertainty is a tough combination. Many buyers may choose to wait for Generation 2s. Less Apple delivers a foldable that feels unusually finished for a first attempt. Apple is late to foldables, and that raises the bar. Apple entering foldables years after Samsung and others is both an advantage and a problem. The advantage, Apple gets to learn from everyone else's mistakes. The problem, Apple has no excuse to repeat them. The longer Apple waits, the higher the expectation that Apple's foldable iPhone will be the most refined foldable on day one. Better hinge feel, better durability, better software, better battery life, and fewer compromises. That's likely why the company is pushing so hard during EVT. Apple doesn't just want a foldable iPhone. Apple wants the foldable iPhone. People recommend without hesitation. Supply chain impact. What a compressed timeline could mean. At launch, if EVT delays push mass production too early. August 2026, Apple's production ramp could be tighter than usual. Foldables also require specialized components, hinge parts, flexible panels, protective layers, and complex assembly steps, which typically have lower early yields. Lower yields plus less time equals fewer units. That could translate to limited availability at launch, longer shipping estimates, region by region, rollout delays, fast sellouts for early pre-order, sugar resale prices if demand exceeds supply. For Apple, the risk is not just missing sales, it's missing momentum. If too many buyers can't get a unit, excitement fades, competitors gain attention, and the narrative shifts from Apple nailed it to Apple can't ship it. Final take. Apple's foldable iPhone is real, but EVT is the battlefield. Latest foldable iPhone leak makes one thing clear. Apple is deep in the hardest part of foldable development. The hinge, the display, and the structural frame all have to meet Apple-level durability standards, and EVT is exposing how difficult that is. Apple can probably still hit a fall 2026 launch, but if EVT continues to slip, the more likely outcome is a launch with limited supplies, especially in the first wave. In other words, Apple's foldable iPhone may arrive on time, but not in huge numbers. And for a first-generation product priced at $2,000 to $2,500, Apple seems willing to trade volume for quality because, in the foldable market, one durability mistake can define the entire category for years.